The CEO's son fired me on my wedding day. The church bells tolled, their heavy clang slicing through the crisp autumn air, but the sound felt like a fist around my heart. I stood at the altar, my white dress clinging to my skin, the lace itching against my collarbone. My groom, Ethan, was late. Not just late, missing. The congregation's whispers slithered through the pews, their eyes darting between pity and judgment. My phone buzzed in my maid of honor's hand, and when she passed it to me, the screen glowed with a single email from my boss, Julian, the CEO's son. Your services are no longer needed. Consider it my wedding gift to you. My knees buckled. Fired. On my wedding day. By the man I'd spent late nights with, poring over spreadsheets, laughing over takeout in his corner office. The man whose lingering glances I'd ignored, whose hand had brushed mine too often. My stomach churned, not just from the email, but from the memory of his voice last night, low and urgent. You're making a mistake, Clara. I forced a smile for the guests, their faces blurring into a mosaic of concern. The organist played a hesitant chord, as if unsure whether to continue. My fingers trembled as I clutched the bouquet, petals wilting under my grip. Ethan's best man, Tom, leaned close, his breath sour with coffee. He's probably stuck in traffic. You know how he is. But his eyes flickered, avoiding mine. Something was wrong. I could feel it, like damp rock creeping beneath polished wood. I excused myself, slipping into the vestry, the scent of old hymnals and wax thick in the air. My phone buzzed again, not Ethan, but a voicemail from Julian's father, Richard, the CEO himself. Clara, we need to talk. It's urgent. Meet me at the office. Now. His voice was gravelly, laced with something I couldn't name, anger, regret. I stood frozen, the satin of my dress suddenly heavy, as if it were dragging me into the earth. The drive to the office was a blur of red lights and honking horns, my veil stuffed into the passenger seat like a discarded dream. My mind raced, replaying the past 6 months. Julian's late-night texts, always about work but edged with something else. You're too good for him, Clara. I'd laughed it off, chalking it up to his arrogance, his need to control everything. But there were moments, his hand lingering on my shoulder, the way he'd watch me when he thought I wasn't looking. I'd dismissed them, loyal to Ethan, to the life we'd planned. But Ethan's distance had grown lately, his excuses flimsier. Work's crazy, he'd say, his phone always face down. I'd ignored the signs, too afraid to look closer. The office loomed ahead, a glass monolith glinting under the noon sun. Richard's corner office was on the top floor, and the elevator's hum felt like a countdown. When the doors opened, he was there, pacing, his silver hair disheveled. Clara, he said, his voice tight, sit down. The room smelled of leather and coffee, but the air was thick with tension. He slid a folder across the desk, his hands unsteady. Open it. Inside were photos, grainy, but unmistakable. Ethan, my Ethan, in a hotel lobby, his arm around a woman with auburn hair. Another photo, them kissing, her body pressed against his. My chest tightened, the air too thin to breathe. When? I whispered. Richard's eyes softened, but his voice was steel. Last month. And before that. Julian found out. He didn't handle it well. My mind spun, fragments of memory colliding. Julian's cryptic warnings. Ethan's not who you think he is. I'd thought he was jealous, trying to sabotage us. But this was real. The photos burned into my vision, Ethan's smile, the one I thought was mine, given to someone else. Why didn't you tell me? I asked, my voice cracking. Richard sighed, rubbing his temples. I wanted to protect you. Julian insisted on handling it his way. He thought firing you would force you to see the truth. My laugh was bitter, raw. By ruining my career. On my wedding day. Richard's silence was an answer. The door burst open, and Julian stormed in, his tie loose, eyes wild. Clara, you're here. His voice was a mix of relief and something darker, possession. I did it for you. Ethan's a liar. He's been cheating for months. I couldn't let you marry him. My hands shook as I stood, the folder slipping to the floor. You don't get to decide my life, Julian. You don't get to play hero by destroying me. His jaw tightened, but his eyes betrayed him, guilt, longing, anger. I love you, Clara. I've always loved you. The words hit like a slap, stealing my breath. Love. This wasn't love. This was control, manipulation dressed in devotion. I stumbled out, the world tilting. Back at the church, the guests were gone, the pews empty except for Ethan, sitting in the front row, head in his hands. The sight of him twisted something inside me. Love, hate, betrayal, all tangled together. Clara, he said, standing, his voice hoarse. I can explain. But his eyes told the truth before his words could lie. How long? I asked, my voice steady despite the storm inside. He looked away, shoulders sagging. 6 months. It was a mistake. I didn't mean, don't, I cut him off, the word sharp enough to draw blood. You let me stand here, in this dress, while you were with her. His silence was deafening, his guilt a weight I couldn't carry. I walked out, the church doors slamming behind me. The autumn air was cold, biting at my bare arms, but I welcomed the sting. My phone buzzed, another voicemail from Richard. Clara, there's more. Julian. He's not stable. He's been obsessed with you for years. I covered for him, but I can't anymore. Be careful. My heart stopped. Julian's love wasn't a confession. It was a warning. I thought of his eyes, the way they tracked me, the way he'd dismantled my life with one email. Betrayal wasn't just Ethan's arms around another woman. It was Julian's calculated cruelty, Richard's complicity, the unraveling of every trust I'd held. I stood on the sidewalk, the city pulsing around me. Car horns, distant laughter, the rustle of leaves skittering across pavement. My dress was a ghost, trailing behind me, a symbol of a life that no longer existed. I didn't know where to go, who to trust, or how to rebuild. But as I walked, each step felt like shedding a layer of the woman I'd been. Naive, trusting, blind. The truth was a blade, cutting deep, but it was also a map. I'd find my way, not because of them, but despite them.